So welcome back to Outdoors with the Morgans. Today's video is going to be much different than what you're used to seeing on our channel. We're going to talk about oil prices, the truth and nothing but the truth. Currently, gas and diesel prices are at all-time highs, and it's affecting all of us in a very bad way. Now, whenever this happens, it always triggers the blame game, where politicians blame higher prices on whatever fits their political agenda. Today, I'm just going to talk about the truth. That's all I'm going to do. I'm going to do my best to keep politics out of it. We'll see how it goes. Now, full disclosure, I want to be perfectly clear that I am not proclaiming to be an expert on the subject. All I ever was, I was a construction worker for years. I was a blaster. I blew things up for a living. Currently, I'm a 55-year-old YouTuber, so take it for what it's worth. However, I did work in the oil and gas industry for about 10 years. Now, while working there, it wasn't like I was studying world oil markets or anything like that. My role in that industry was to get well pads built for drilling rigs. But, and this is a big but by the way, considering that most of the politicians and talking heads on TV probably don't know the difference between a drilling rig and a cell phone tower, I believe with my limited knowledge and basic math skills, I'm sufficiently qualified to talk about the subject. Now, since we're going to talk about high oil prices, I think it's best to have a pretty good understanding of just how much oil we consume each day in the United States. We use 19.78 million barrels of oil each day. Now, there's 42 gallons in a barrel of oil. That works out to about 831 million gallons of oil each day. Now, to put that in perspective, a DOT 111 tanker car, you see them on the train tracks all the time, they hold about 29,000 gallons of oil. Now, with that being said, it would take a train 325 miles long from one end to the other, all tanker cars filled with oil, to equal what we use each and every day. Basically, the distance across Pennsylvania from the Ohio line to the New Jersey line. Pennsylvania is about 309 miles long. Olympic-sized swimming pools, 50 meters long, 25 meters wide, 2 meters deep. You could fill 1,259 of those swimming pools with oil, and that would equal the same amount we use each and every day. And that's about the only time you'll hear me say meters instead of yards. So basically, we use a lot of oil. Oh, and by the way, we are delivering some firewood this morning to some neighbors. People are quickly seeing the importance of getting their wood early this year, so they're all set for this winter. So we all know fuel prices are through the roof. A good example of that is this. This morning, I had to take daughter Hannah to the airport, and on the way back, I had to get gas in the grocery getter. It is a 2019 F-150, and I set a new record. It was $148 to fill up my truck. Never spent that much before. Now for me, that's a bad thing. For the nation, it is catastrophic, and here's why. I mentioned that we use about 831 million gallons of oil each day. Well, out of that, we use about 369 million gallons of gasoline each and every day. So what are we paying now? About $1.40 more per gallon than we did like a year and a half ago or so. So the $1.40 a gallon, that works out to about $500 million each and every day that Americans are spending that they can't spend on something else. Now, if that's not bad enough, diesel fuel is even worse. Around here, diesel is about $6 a gallon, and that basically affects the price of everything because trucking costs are going through the roof as well. Now, everybody's wondering why oil prices are up and what can be done about it. And like I mentioned earlier, the politicians, the talking heads on TV, they all have an agenda. I read an article this morning that was blaming the high oil prices because Russian oil was taken off the market. That's not true at all. Russia is still selling oil. They're selling to China, they're selling to India, and they're also selling it to a lot of other countries. Russia just doesn't say who it's going to, and the countries that are buying it aren't saying where it came from. So there's definitely Russian oil still on the market. So that's not the problem. Heading back to get basket number 2. Better shut this off to save a little fuel where I can. But another thing that I keep hearing about is corporate greed. You hear politicians in the media talking about corporate greed, and that is why oil prices are where they're at. Now, I'm not saying there aren't some greedy companies out there, because I'm sure there are, but it's just another talking point that they've used for decades. Anytime something doesn't go their way or they want to blame it on something, they just go with corporate greed, and then people regurgitate that same information. But there is way, way more to it than corporate greed. Is there companies out there that are trying to make a profit? Hopefully all of them are, because if not, they're going to be out of business. To try to understand what's happening in the oil markets today, you got to go back a few years. Back when horizontal drilling became a big thing, all of a sudden what happened is we found ways to extract oil from the ground that were never thought of before, and they didn't think it was possible. Everybody thought they were going to get rich. Investors were pumping billions of dollars into these oil and gas companies. They start drilling like crazy, right? Oversupply, prices crash, a whole bunch of them went bankrupt. That's what happened. So today, you're seeing companies be a lot more cautious with their capital because they don't want to get into the same situation they did several years ago. I actually lived through that. I mean, I worked in oil and gas, and here I am, a dumb construction guy, and I'm like scratching my head wondering, why are we drilling so much? You know, we're producing more and more and selling it for less and less, and that's really not a good business model. And it all came to a head. A bunch of companies went bankrupt. I actually went through, I don't even know, 4 or 5 different layoffs, which is kind of awkward when you're sitting in your office and, you know, they come in and run a bunch of people out basically. But I lived through all that, and even I knew that was a recipe for disaster. Now, not only did a lot of companies go bankrupt and a lot of people lost their jobs, but a lot of investors lost billions and billions of dollars the last time oil prices tanked. The media and the politicians also blame high prices on oil companies for not drilling enough. They keep bringing up they have all this leased land and they're not drilling on it. That's why prices are so high. Matter of fact, I saw a video, and I think it was actually filmed towards the end of last year. It was some lawmaker from California, some woman, and she was being all dramatic, and she was talking about grains of rice equals how many acres of land that oil and gas companies have leased. And she opened up the trunk of her car, and there's all these big bags of rice, and wondering why they're not drilling or something. It's all nonsense. They act like you can just go out to a piece of ground that you have leased and turn a spigot on and you got more oil flowing. It does not work that way at all. It's a very, very long process. Let's say, I'm going to miss a few key points here, but let's say you have some property leased and you want to drill on it. First thing you're going to want to do is some seismic work to see if there's even oil in that area. After that's completed, you'll do some environmental studies. You'll start the permitting process. You'll get your permits to build a well pad. You build a well pad, you move a drill rig in. Once the rig's out, you bring a frac crew in. All this takes millions and millions of dollars to do. After you drill the well and you frack it, well, then you're going to need a pipeline to get rid of the gas and haul it off somewhere. It's just a whole very long process. At best, I'm just throwing this out there. Best case scenario, if you decided you wanted to drill on a specific piece of leased land, you're probably looking at a year before it's actually producing anything. So nothing is going to happen overnight. So when you hear them talking about, oh, we've got all this leased land, why don't they just drill on it and prices would come down? It's a very, very long and slow and costly process. And speaking of cost, it kind of goes back to what I was talking happened a few years ago. When prices tanked and a bunch of companies went out of business, investors got very, very nervous. It takes a lot of capital to drill wells, and a lot of investors and the big guys, they don't want to invest in oil and gas because they're a little gun shy from what happened before. And let's be honest, today it doesn't look good if you invest in oil and gas companies. And when I say investors don't want to invest in oil and gas operations, a lot of it has to do with ESG, which I thought was like a conspiracy theory just a few months ago, but it's actually a real thing. It's environmental, social, and governance criteria that investors can use to decide whether they want to invest in a company or not. A lot of them don't want to invest in oil and gas. Another thing that we hear about causing higher oil prices is the shutdown of the Keystone pipeline. I really don't think that has much to do with it. I look at the Keystone pipeline as, well, this is just my opinion. Everything else that I've talked about so far, you can look up all the numbers, you can look up the history, it's all right there. This is my opinion. The Keystone pipeline has been like a chess piece in a political game. One president shuts it down, next one lets them proceed, next one shuts it down, just as like a payback for a certain group of supporters or something. All in all, you know, some companies lost a whole bunch of money, some people lost jobs, but overall prices today, I don't think that had much of an effect on it. So I've been kind of jumping all over the place, so I want to kind of summarize what I've been talking about so far and also touch on a few key points that I may have missed. Basically, there is a variety of reasons why oil prices are high right now. I will say some of the things the politicians and the media tells us are probably partially to blame for that, but definitely not entirely to blame. This has been years in the making. This didn't happen overnight. Like I said, several years ago, the oil companies produced more oil than what was needed. Prices dropped. A lot of people lost their jobs. A lot of companies went bankrupt. A lot of investors lost billions of dollars. After that, things started to pick up. Demand started creeping up a little bit. Production was increasing. Prices rose, but not too high. Everybody was pretty happy where things were at. Nobody was really complaining about gas prices, and things were kind of moving along okay. At that point, the pandemic hit, and of course, when that happened, demand dropped, prices dropped, more lost money, more people lost jobs, all that kind of stuff. Then things slowly started to pick back up, and of course, there's supply chain issues, all that kind of stuff, workforce issues, all those kind of things add to it. But the government, they started sending out money to basically everybody and everything. Matter of fact, side note, our county where I live, we got some kind of, I don't even know what you call it. It's like an armored personnel carrier. It was $330,000 federal money. Our county got that. They'll never use it for anything. But my goal is to one day to buy that for like $500 at an auction. We'll see what happens. I'll let you guys know if it works out. But anyway, inflation hit, and inflation is running rampant right now. And a lot of people say inflation is caused, you know, partially by rising oil prices. They kind of work neck and neck. You know, in this case, prices of goods and services were going up. You have worker shortages. Price of fuel's going up. It adds to inflation, and it just keeps getting worse and worse. So I think that's where we're at right now. But inflation is definitely not helping things. It's amazing what everything costs these days, and fuel prices are actually making it worse. One other thing I wanted to touch on as far as corporate greed goes, we hear that all the time. I don't think a lot of people realize a lot of these oil companies hedge their prices. So say at the beginning of the year, they try to guess basically what oil is going to be selling for throughout the year, and they can hedge their prices. So if they can make money at say $60 a barrel, they can hedge their prices. They're going to get paid $60 a barrel for their oil, no matter if it sells for $40 a barrel or if it sells for $120 a barrel. And that's usually a good thing because they know where they can make money until inflation hits. Everything costs more. So what they thought, you know, when they thought they could make money at 60, they no longer can just because of inflation. Now, at the beginning of this video, I said I was going to do my very best to try and not get political in this because there's too much of that going on right now. All the news media, all these things, they just get everybody fighting back and forth and nothing gets done and nothing gets better. We need less of that, and we need more common sense is what we need. I'm starting to sound like a politician, but here's what we need to do. We need to stop demonizing oil and fossil fuels in general. It would be great, you know, if one day we can go all electric on everything, but we are just not there yet. We're not even remotely close to that point yet, and we have to stop demonizing literally the lifeblood of America. That's what it is. Like it or not, you know, when I mentioned 19.78 million barrels of oil every day we use, we can't replace that overnight. So in the meantime, we need to figure out a way to work together, get prices down a little bit, and stop demonizing fossil fuels because we all need it. Like it or not, we have to have it. But anyway, I think that's about it for today's video. I told you at the beginning of this video it was going to be much, much different than what you're used to. Some of you may like it, some of you may hate it. It doesn't really matter because it's the truth. If you like this video, I would appreciate you sharing it with your friends and anyone that is wondering why oil prices are so high. Catch you on the next one.